Twitter is a website that needs to be, it just needs to go away. It gets so many people in trouble. It causes people to do stupid things. Just delete Twitter. You don't need it. Football coaches, football players, fans, you don't need Twitter. Just delete it. And a lot of your problems would go away. That's what happened last night. Twitter is a very bad website, and people need to stop using it. If they didn't, there would be far less drama.
Should we play Brian Haydad from Thunder and Lightning on the radio last night?
Sure.
If you didn't hear this in real time, Haydad was clipping along on his show.
Mike Leach was joining us today.
Cough, cough.
I have a little frog in my throat today. It's been bothering me all day.
Yeah, so Haydad's in the middle of talking about whatever he was talking about, and then I don't know exactly what the content was surrounding it. You may be in the middle of a basketball conversation.
I was talking about the bowl game when we got something on the C Spire text line that said, "Hey, Dylan Johnson has tweeted that he's out." Because I had already addressed that earlier in the show. We had talked about the portal. I had said that I expect Dylan Johnson to go, just waiting on the tweet. And I started reading the tweet, and I assume we'll sort of take it from there.
We will take it there. So the tweet, if you want to check it out on your own, is from Sports Talk Mississippi, and this was Brian Haydad. Say what?
I can't believe Dylan Johnson's tweet is still up. You'll see me saying this thing that I didn't think it would be.
So this was Brian Haydad last night on Thunder and Lightning immediately after Sports Talk Mississippi ended.
Oh, did we get a tweet here? Hold on, we may have some good old-fashioned breaking news. Dylan Johnson, yeah, that makes it official. He is. I'll actually read it out here on the. This comes straight from Dylan Johnson's Twitter account. First and foremost, I'd like to thank God for giving me the opportunity to showcase my talents at the college level. Without him, I am nothing. Secondly, I would like to thank my family and friends for the endless love and support they have shown me throughout the season. To Mississippi State University, my teammates, trainers, and amazing fans, it has been an honor to participate in this program with you all. Together, you guys have helped me build my character and skills tremendously. With that being said, since I am not very tough and Leach is glad I'm leaving, I will be entering my name in the transfer portal with the hopes of finding a more fit playing environment for me. I'm going to screenshot this because I am of the opinion that will not be up very long. Let me do that right quick. There we go.
So he was screenshotting it, and yet it is still up. The tweet is still
amazingly
there.
Is
Dylan
still
Johnson
up.
has not backed away from it.
He has not. Very surprising by that. I mean, normally in this day and age, you make the controversial statement, and then a couple hours later, somebody says, "Hey, dummy, take that down," and it gets taken down, and you move on with your life. Not the case here. Dylan Johnson, I mean, he's standing by what he's saying. I'll say that as much.
So give us the backdrop, right? I mean, there are probably people who have not necessarily been buried in this all day long. So the idea that he is not tough and isn't wanted in Starkville, or that Leach doesn't want him on the team anymore, give us the backdrop.
Well, it came from a conversation that Mike Leach had with one of his teammates who, for reasons unknown to us at this time, decided to record that conversation, and that conversation got back to Dylan Johnson, and he took it poorly, as you can tell. He did not appreciate what Mike Leach had to say about him, and went to Twitter to convey his message from there. Today is going to be a day, Richard, and it'll be one of the days that Borky likes, where we're going to have a lot of both things can be right, or both things can be wrong, or two people can be right or wrong at the same time. We are really going to have to deal in shades of gray today, more than black and white, because there's a lot of blame to go around in this instance, in my opinion. So, and it's on both sides. It's on all three. I mean, I think Dylan Johnson is to blame. I think Mike Leach is to blame. And I think the party that recorded this video is to blame. There's a lot of blame to go around in this, and it's turned what should have just been a pretty normal, okay, Dylan Johnson's in the portal, off he goes, who will state replace him with kind of news cycle, into this whole other thing that has brought a good bit of negative attention to Mississippi State.
There's a lot to unpack with it all. For some reason, I feel like people are not talking about the most fascinating and maybe damning piece of all of this. Why was that conversation recorded? Who recorded it? Why did they record it? And why did they distribute it to teammates? That, to me, I've listened to people talk about it. I've looked at message boards and Twitter and stuff. Not enough people are focusing on that to me. They're talking about whether or not what Mike Leach said is offensive. And after hearing the recording, probably ill-advised to be saying that to apparently a teammate. Coaches have said worse, much worse. Mike Leach has said much worse in interviews. After games, he said worse than that. That is Mike Leach. That's what you get with Mike Leach. Frankly, he's interesting. He's funny. He's also kind of a jerk. It's how he is. He's always been kind of callous is the word I would use. Mike Leach is callous. So that's not surprising. But why was somebody recording it? Who was that person recording it? And why did they distribute it? That, to me, is now the most interesting part of this. Because he didn't say that to the player. He didn't say that in a team meeting. He said that to a player, apparently, in what I assume he thought was a private conversation. So why did it get out? Why was it recorded? That is the most interesting part of this, and it makes me wonder. That gives me more questions than anything else. Why was this recorded and distributed?
Hey, Dad, you said a second ago, hey, Dad, there's plenty of blame to go around. You said Mike Leach gets blame. The person that recorded this conversation gets blame. And you said Dylan Johnson gets blame. Tell me about the blame for Dylan Johnson. Because I'm having a little bit of trouble with that one.
Sure. I think that by and large, when you're a man, now I'm delving into philosophy here. We're getting away from sports and into my own personal beliefs. When you're a man, you're going to come across people who talk crap about you. The way to handle it, in my opinion, is face to face. If I found out that you were talking crap about me behind my back, Richard, I'm not going to come on this show and just drop that in and try to catch you off guard. I'm going to drive to Oxford, and we're going to have a conversation. And I'm not saying that like I'm going to go there and whip his, I'm just saying man to man, we're going to talk. I don't believe that handling the way he did. He should have, as soon as he found out about this, he should have gone to Mike Leach and said, I want to know what's going on. Why are you saying these things about me? I bled on this football field for you for 3 years, and this is how you talk about me? That's not acceptable. And you're either going to apologize or we're going to have a real issue. So I just don't think that I don't believe in handling things through social media. You should handle things as a man face to face.
The now former Mississippi State running back who is entering the transfer portal, he tweeted that out yesterday, and as part of his graphic announcement, when he got to the with that being said part, which, by the way, is a staple of every single graphic by any player for any announcement, they say a bunch of stuff, and then they go, with that being said. So following with that being said, Dylan Johnson said, since I am not very tough, and Leach is glad I am leaving, I will be entering my name into the transfer portal with hopes of finding a more fit playing environment for me. So the reference to not being tough and leaving, we were kind of just left to wonder for a bit until the audio of Mike Leach saying that was made public. Here's what Mike Leach said. It's a 15-second clip.
And they're especially not going to be excited about a guy that leaves. So Dylan Johnson's leaving, and I'm actually sort of glad because I don't think he's very tough. And so Dylan Johnson's leaving.
So that's it. Dylan Johnson's leaving, and I'm actually kind of glad because I don't think he's very tough.
Despite awarding him the Tough Man Award after a game earlier this season. Little hint of irony there.
That was a Twitter graphic that didn't have with that being said in it.
Yeah, he was tough then.
Yeah.
That's ill-advised, right? That's not something that you should say to one of his teammates. It's ill-advised.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
It's not that bad, though.
It's not that bad. And all three of us would probably tell you that a coach has said worse to us to our face.
Yeah.
I know I can. Borky had a story earlier on Twitter. Richard, without knowing your situation, I'm going to assume that's the case.
Sure.
But at the same time, one thing people always talk about, especially in this day and age of social media, is never say anything that you wouldn't say to somebody's face. Because you never know. Everybody's recording these days. Everybody's even got the phones out. Everybody's looking for content. Excuse me. And now, that being said, Mike Leach might very well say that to Dylan Johnson's face. He probably would say it to Dylan Johnson's face, but he got caught with his hand in. He may have. He got caught with his hand in the cookie jar here, and unfortunately, now I do want to say one thing because I've been seeing this a lot on message boards. I want to make this very clear: not illegal. A lot of people think that there's some sort of legal recourse for Mike Leach. In the state of Mississippi, you can record a conversation as long as one party knows about it. In that case, the party doing the recording does know about it and has given permission to record. So people are saying, oh, Leach is going to sue. He's not going to sue. He's got no grounds there. But he obviously has, for lack of a better word, a mole, a snitch in his program. And you got to get that guy out.
Well, I want to bring that up for a second.
Mm-hmm.
There's some deductive reasoning that is going on in lots of corners of the internet as to who this was. But we don't know for sure who recorded this.
Right.
But you know who does know who recorded it? Mike Leach knows who recorded it. He knows who he was talking to when he said what he said. Unless it was in a group setting, and I got no way of knowing, but it feels like Mike Leach should have a really, really good idea of who it was that recorded this and then shared it to the point that it's now being played on statewide radio.
I don't think Mississippi State's going to reveal this is what happened. You're just going to see somebody enter the transfer portal, and you'll either know that it's them because it's somebody who you wouldn't expect to enter the transfer portal, or you're not going to ever know because it was just some backup that that guy's probably just leaving for playing time. But as far as who did it, who done it, unless they come forward, we're probably never going to know for sure. And it'll go down amongst many other sports mysteries.
Does it make you wonder?
That being said, I would expect to know because I think somebody's going to enter the transfer portal that you don't expect.
Does it make you worry, not wonder, but worry about internal cultural issues? Because, last night, it felt like everything was kind of a disaster. You lose another receiver to the portal today, not necessarily an impact one like the first Thomas, but this Thomas had an incredibly high ceiling and a good player in his early career. So that's three offensive guys that are gone.
You'd rather kept him than not.
Absolutely. So it looks bad. It sounds bad. It's terrible. But it's not all bad because you had a bunch of guys defensively. What do you think Nathaniel Watson could have commanded in the portal had he wanted to go down that road? What do you think Ole Miss would pay for a linebacker of his caliber right now? He could have hit the portal and gone somewhere and gotten paid. Chose not to. Half a dozen guys defensively that could have either gone to the NFL or gone the portal route and commanded a bunch of money chose not to. So this instant tells me that, wait, there's something up culturally, internally. If you got a guy that's trying to bring the coach down with secret recordings, that is emblematic of a cultural issue. But at the same time, this is a team that kept a bunch of guys from hitting the portal that could have, chasing money that could have, that are sticking around. So what gives here?
where are those guys that are sticking around versus where are the guys that are leaving? It's offense versus defense.
Yeah.
State has lost of the players that have hit the portal. I don't know that any of them, off the top of my head, are defensive guys. Even the guys who just like they're hitting the portal for playing time reasons, or they're just ready to move on from Mississippi State. A long snapper, a backup offensive lineman. It's offensive guys almost exclusively. Now you had Buki Watson decide to, yank everyone's chain last night, which a lot of people did not appreciate.
Especially given the circumstances of the day.
So, yeah, I remember the day Cannizzaro got fired was also a Chelsea Champions League game day, and I was trying to tweet about the game, and people were just like, "You are making me so upset because I think you're talking about something else." And I wasn't. But that's the same thing, right? It's Buki's just messing with everybody. Everybody was on edge anyway. I had to fire off a tweet at like 10 o'clock to a source, be like, is he really in the portal? And they're like, no, he's not. And then 5-10 minutes after that, he's psych. He'd gotten everybody. It's weird, though. It's weird that the offensive guys are just hitting the portal, and we seem to have all this disarray, and the defensive guys are all locked in, ready to go next year.
Is Zach Arnett why?
I mean, that's not somebody I'd want to run afoul of, but at the same time, I don't think Leach is somebody I'd want to run afoul of. I mean, he's an old-school kind of coach.
What I'm asking a question that was asked of me last night I didn't know the answer. And not like from the disciplinarian perspective, but like that's a guy I want to play for. If I'm a linebacker, I want to play for Zach Arnett. I'm happy here because he's my coach, and I want to play for him as opposed to maybe on the flip side, you've got guys – I mean – we're talking about running backs, right? At least one is gone. Well, two, but one didn't play. One of the two didn't play at all.
Jernigan's a four-stringer, yeah.
Yeah. But there was talk, at least at one point, of both of your running backs leaving, asking to get more carries. Mm-hmm. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen consistently. Mike Leach is never going to run the football consistently at a high volume. We have 20 years of sample size to prove that point. So I'm asking questions you may not know the answer to, but do you think that the simple answer is because the defensive guys like playing for their guy and the offensive guys to some degree may not?
I can't answer that because I don't know, but it's a hell of a coincidence is how I guess I would look at it.
Jason says it's a heck of a time to be without an AD, huh?
And that's something that, all of this probably would have been squashed with an athletic director in place today, don't you think? That the AD would have gotten with Leach, maybe tried to get with Dylan Johnson, tried to get them in the same room to talk, something, release a statement. I don't know. I mean, does Leach's statement, it'd just be written by the university or something, in a moment of anger, I lashed out at a former player. I shouldn't have done that. I've spoken with Dylan, and, we've made amends. I wish him nothing but the best. He's been a big part of our success. And then Dylan Johnson releases a similar statement in a moment of anger. I said some things I shouldn't have said. I love Mississippi State. Coach Leach has done a ton for my career. You make that statement and you heal everybody's wounds right at once. And an athletic director probably is like, look, we got to do something. And I'm not, and I'm sure Bracky Brett is doing something, but you see what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I still go back to, and this is asking a question in a little bit different way that I did earlier. Does Dylan Johnson have anything to apologize for? He was leaving Mississippi State. That wasn't a surprise. On his way out the door, he gets word that his head coach for the last 3 years says he wasn't tough and he was glad that he was leaving. I'm not entirely I get your analogy of if you and I have a beef, we need to talk about it face to face. I don't need to come on this radio show or social media and air my beef about you or vice versa. But I'm not sure how much apologizing I think Dylan Johnson needs to be doing here.
Right. I get what you're saying. We'll come back to it.
We'll pick that up when we come back. Sports Talk, our text line, 601-879-4395. Many texts, substantive that we should get to, but I think we should start with the tactical text, which is my response. Richard versus Haydad. I'd give the odds to Haydad, but Richard would win in upsetting fashion by submission in the fourth round. Looks like he could deal a mean armbar. So, hey, Dad, here was my response.
Yeah.
I would fight dirty. Sand in the eyes, knee to the groin, throat punch, etc. As long as Hey Dad didn't lock me up, I think I would be okay. And I have a high pain threshold. Kind of feel like I could outlast him.
Oh, you think sand is your ally? Well, you merely adopted the sand. I was born in it. I didn't see soil until I was already a man.
Oh, me. Let's see here.
I didn't think I'd ever get to use the Bane speech. That was great.
Many text messages that have come through, and so many angles that we haven't looked at yet. Let's see here. Mike in Grand Bay says it's too easy to text in the moment without thinking. Common sense doesn't exist anymore in social media.
Well, but it's still up, and a graphic was made and everything.
Yeah, that was thought out.
If I were, for whatever it's worth, if I were in his camp, a parent, a friend, high school coach, whatever, I would have advised him not to do that. And I would have, if I didn't know that he was going to do that, I would have advised him to take it down immediately.
And he's obviously got somebody giving advice, Borky, because he was supposed to do an Instagram Live at 1 o'clock, and that didn't happen. He got talked out of that.
That's probably for the better. I mean,
that is for the best.
I almost have more respect for somebody that doesn't immediately pull the social media post down. It's like, I'm kind of standing by it, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear that.
Once you post it, everybody's got the screenshot.
Right, but I would have advised him to take it down and issue some sort of apology. You know, I wish nothing but the best for Mississippi State. I'm out. When you are leaving somewhere, even if it's a toxic environment, take the high road. That would be my dad's advice to me. That will be my advice to my son. If that day comes, he's got my genes. It won't. But if he's a high-level football player, which he won't be, and he is in a toxic environment and a coach is mistreating him or whatever and said some things that he didn't like and he wants to leave, you will not make reference to that in your goodbye letter. You will thank the people you want to thank, your teammates, the fans, and you will just move on. Because you gain nothing. What did he gain today or yesterday by saying that? Nothing was really. In fact, I would be willing to guess that coaches are going to have to ask him one more question. It's not going to stop him from finding a home. I think somebody on the text line said that, well, this is going to make nobody want to sign him. He's going to have to go D2. I at least got that in my comments last night.
No.
0% chance. He's going to find a home and a good one, probably. He's a good player. It's a college kid doing something that I would advise against on social media. It's not the end of the world. But take the high road. If you're leaving a bad environment, just say goodbye and move on and be happy. Look in the windshield, not in the rear view, would be my advice to him if I were close to him.
Can he help us win? That's all coaches want to know.
Yeah.
That's all anybody wants to know. Can he help us win? A lot of worse people have gotten spots for much, much, much less than an angry tweet. Or much more, I should say.
Yeah, and Borky, to your example about leaving a job, so I worked for this very company, for TeleSouth Communications, immediately out of college, and was here for several years, and then I left to pursue some other opportunities, try some other things. And I wrote Steve Davenport a letter when I left, thanking him for the opportunity to work and being grateful for the time that I had at TeleSouth and, hope to see. And I think in part because of the way I left and stayed in contact through the years, after I left, I was able to come back. Borky's mad. He's like, why didn't you burn the bridge down when you left the first time?
Yeah, but if that never happened, I wouldn't be I wouldn't be here. So
yeah, well,
it all worked out.
Yeah, it all worked out in the long run.
Big butterfly effect thing, you know.
Yeah. But no, you're right. There's a right way to leave. Whether you're talking about a job or you're just moving on in life, then there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. Mike in Oxford says that Dylan Johnson has absolutely zero to apologize for. Donald in Oxford says, from a perspective that's not knee-jerk, MSU's offense will be fine. There is a deep talent pool at wide receiver and more coming in. Most of the rest of them were non-factors. From a recruiting standpoint, it will hurt short term, but 3 months from now, it will be almost forgotten. I agree with that. And when we were talking about this morning, you guys were kind of debating back and forth. I guess all three of us were debating back and forth. What does this mean? What does it mean for Dylan Johnson? What does it mean for Mike Leach? And I just raised the question. I was like, what if it doesn't mean anything for anybody? Mississippi State's going to keep getting players. Dylan Johnson's going to land with the place. Everybody's going to forget about it and move on in a couple of days.
Other SEC coaches will not let other people forget about that.
It will be used against him in recruiting, but stuff like this was probably already being used against Mike Leach in recruiting. You don't think Adam James gets brought up in recruiting?
I can tell. I mean,
you know that it does.
There are stuff that Lane Kiffin did recently that I promise you is being used against him in recruiting.
Exactly.
There is one quarterback.
I bet Hugh Freeze will have some things used against him in recruiting. Just call me crazy.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if Auburn's really prepared for that, but either way. But yeah, you want to take arrows out of other people's quivers in recruiting, right? You want the negative recruiting to be ridiculous, stuff that you can easily disprove. But now, let's pretend for a second like there's a wide receiver out there. Let's say he's transferring from Georgia State. Really good wide receiver in the Sun Belt, caught 1,600 yards worth of passes, whatever. And Ole Miss and Mississippi State are both recruiting him. Ole Miss will constantly remind him that, hey, behind your back, that's what your coach thinks about you. And so you never want that kind of stuff to be real. And that's a real thing that happened. And Mississippi State would. Lane Kiffin flirts with the job every year. Every year. You don't know if he's going to be your coach next year. And so it balances out, but still.
Let me ask this question. Why was that conversation being recorded?
That's the money.
That's the question. That's the one thing that nobody knows the answer to.
What else was in the conversation? Because clearly that's just a snippet of the conversation. We pulled the salacious detail out and have published it. But, you think about it. Everybody, you said it a second ago, everybody can record anything, right? You go to voice notes on your phone, you hit record, put it in your pocket, fine, it'll record, ought to pick it up. The microphone's on it, is good. But you can't discreetly do that if you're not already prepared to do it. I mean, in the middle of Mike Leach talking, did whoever was recording it grab their phone, unlock it, open the app, scroll to voice notes, open it up and hit record? Or did they walk into, whoever the person was, into this conversation expecting something bad and chose to record it? Is it a player who, if it's a player, knew he had a conversation with Coach Leach and knew it was a situation where he was going to try to be convinced to stay and not leave, and therefore he was recording the conversation so he could play it back for his parents to help him make a decision based on how, I don't know. But you can't help but wonder, what else was there? What was said before this snippet? What was said after this snippet? What was the larger context? And again, why was the conversation being recorded in the first place? Is it somebody that was looking for a gotcha moment of Mike Leach? Which I suppose would be a little nefarious. Or was it far more innocent to begin with, and then this just kind of happened, and you're like, oh, wow, look what I've got. First hour of the show, we've been talking about Dylan Johnson. That is the news that has dominated the day here in the state of Mississippi, at least in the college football landscape. So let's go back to where we started. Hey, Dad, when you said there's blame to go around, right? That Dylan Johnson shoulders some for this firestorm? Mike Leach shoulders some, and that whoever recorded the audio, deserves some blame as well. So on the Mike Leach piece, what are we doing there?
Maybe it's, again, I'm going to have to sort of get into my own philosophies here, but when you're a coach, you take on a responsibility to the players. And if you want to discipline them, if you want to be hard on them, I believe, it's football, man. Football, it's not for everybody. It's a tough sport. But the idea that one of my coaches, who I went out there and I bled for, and I put my body on the line, and here I am. I thought about this today, Richard. I was like, I haven't played competitive football in 30 years. Mm-hmm. And how different the game is and how different the players are now, 30 years later, versus think about what football was in 1963. I mean, you couldn't even get water. So I understand that the game evolves and you got to treat players differently. I do, I'll get that. But if I found out that, like, one of the coaches behind my back was like, hey, Dad's not very tough, I wish he wasn't on the team, it would have killed me, man. It would have absolutely killed me to find that out. So, as a coach, why are you saying that about a player who gave you 3 years, played hurt, worked his tail off, scored a lot of big touchdowns, made a lot of big runs for you? Why would you even say that? That's not right, in my opinion. Whether you believe it or not, if you want to keep it amongst the coaches, that's fine. But he obviously didn't. So I mean, that's why I don't understand what the point of that was. Mike Leach has been coaching a long, long time. He knows better. He knows better than to do things like that. He just does.
Yeah. I mean, that conversation in a coach's meeting, mm-hmm. I don't think that's off limits.
Yes.
I'm glad he's leaving. Not very tough anyway. In a coach's meeting.
Mm-hmm.
That conversation one-on-one. Hey, Dad, you tell me, I'm your coach. Coach, I'm looking to go somewhere else. Well, good luck to you. Kind of glad you're leaving. I don't think you're very tough anyway. Not how I would handle the meeting. That's harsh.
Yeah.
But I'm saying it directly to you.
Yeah.
Not to anybody else.
But saying it behind my back to my teammates, I mean,
but yeah, I was going to say,
that's a betrayal.
I say it to another player. Yeah, that's not leadership at all. That's a problem. Does this sow any further discord among teammates that aren't leaving? Or is that an overplayed idea?
I don't know. I mean, it feels like a team meeting can get everything squared away. I don't think you're going to see mass defections and mass guys going into the portal as a result of this. There'll still be a couple more guys going in the portal, but those were guys who were going anyway. Xavier Thomas is one of those guys. He was going in the portal before all this happened.
Yeah. We had a bunch of people ask, could it be a staff member that recorded this?
Yeah. Could have been. That would be weird because you're certainly going to get fired if you get caught, which you have been. So,
I mean, unless you're trying to run an internal coup.
Yeah, it is a sign of something, though. What that sign is, I don't know, but that's not normal behavior in a football program.
Yeah. I mean, we get a note here that says fire Mike Leach.
No. Come on, y'all.